So today, we will explain about lactose intolerance. But first, what is lactose? Lactose is a type of natural sugar that found in the milk or any other dairy product. It is composed of a sugar that made from two smaller units such as glucose and galactose. So, to digest it, the body needs to use an enzyme called lactose and galactose. So next, what is lactose intolerant? Lactose intolerant is the condition where the body does not produce enough lactase. Because of it, the lactose stay undigested as it will pass to the large intestine and the bacteria will break down the lactose through the process called fermentation. So, this process produces gas, acid, extra water which will lead to the uncomfortable symptom. There are three lactose intolerant symptoms. First, stomach cramp. This symptom gives feel sharp or arching pain in the lower stomach due to muscle contraction in the intestine. Second, gurgling sound. The stomach may make loud bubbling or rumbling noise because the gas and liquid move around. Third, nausea. Some of people will feel sick or may even vomit, especially after drinking milk with empty stomach.
Now, I will talk about lactase enzyme. Lactase is the enzyme responsible for digesting lactose. It is produced in the brush border of the small intestine, especially on the microvilli. The main function of lactase is to break lactose into two simple sugars, which is glucose and galactose. If the body does not produce enough lactase, lactose cannot be digested properly and this leads to lactose intolerance. Here is the step-by-step process of normal lactose digestion. First, lactose enters the small intestine after leaving the stomach. Then, lactase attached to the lactose molecule. Lactase breaks the lactose into glucose and galactose. These smaller sugars are now ready to be absorbed by the intestinal cell. Inside the small intestine, absorption happens at the villi and microvilli. The villi are finger-like structures that help increase the surface area for absorption. On each villus, there are microvilli, also known as the brush border. Glucose and galactose enter the intestinal cells through a transporter called SGLT1. Then, they move into the bloodstream through another transporter called GLUT2. Once they are in the blood, the body can use them for energy.
When a person lacks of lactase enzyme, lactose cannot be split into simple sugars because it is too large to be absorbed. So, lactose will stay inside the small intestine. Next, undigested lactose will increase the concentration of particles in the intestine. This causes the water to move into the small intestines by osmosis. It will make the stools become more watery and leading it to diarrhea. Then, in the large intestine, bacteria ferment the lactose. This process will produce three gases, hydrogen, carbon dioxide, and methane, that stretch the intestinal walls and causing bloating, cramps, and flatulence.
So in these slides, we will talk about symptoms and psychological effects, which are bloating, gas, stomach cramps, diarrhea, and nausea. So number 1, bloating occurs because the undigested lactose travels to the larger intestine, where is it fermented by bacteria. The fermentation process produces gases that causes the intestine to expand, leading to a swollen and uncomfortable feeling in the abdomen. So number 2, gas. Excess gas is produced when bacteria in the large intestine break down the lactose that the small intestine could not digest. The gases released during this fermentation, such as carbon dioxide, methane, and hydrogen, accumulate and are expelled as gas. Number 3, stomach cramp happen because the buildup of gas and fluid stretches the intestinal walls. In response, the smooth muscle of the intestine contract more strongly to move the content along, and this strong contraction causes cramping pain. Number 4, diarrhea occurs because the undigested lactose increases the osmotic pressure inside the small intestine. This causes water to be drawn from the surrounding tissues into the intestinal lumen and resulting in watery stones. And lastly, nausea develops when the accumulation of gas and fluid irritates the digestion tract. This irritation sends signal to the brain nasal center and creating the sensation of wanting to vomit.
The small intestine is the main site where most digestion and absorption take place. The inner surface is covered with villi and microvilli, which greatly increase the surface area to ensure nutrients can absorb efficiently. The small intestine also contains a rich network of blood capillary and lymphatic vessels to transport these nutrients throughout the body. Carbohydrates are broken down into simple sugars such as glucose, galactose, and fructose. Glucose and galactose are absorbed into the intestinal cell using active transport, which requires energy. Fructose is absorbed through a passive process that does not require energy. After absorption, all these sugars enter the blood capillaries and are transported to the liver. Proteins are digested into amino acids, dipeptides, and tripeptides. These are absorbed through active transport into the intestinal cells, where any peptides are further broken down into amino acids. Then, amino acids enter the bloodstream through the capillaries and travel to the liver. Fat absorption. Fats are first emulsified by bile salts and then broken down into fatty acid and monoglyceride. These from muscles that allow them to enter the intestinal cells. Inside the cells, the fats are reassembled into the triglyceride and packed into cyclomicrons. These cyclomicrons move into the lymphatic system through structure called lactase before entering the bloodstream. Water absorption. Water is absorbed through osmosis, while the electrolytes such as sodium and potassium are absorbed through active and passive transport. This process helps to maintain the body fluid and electrolyte balance. Vitamins absorption. Vitamins are absorbed depending on their solubility. For fat soluble is vitamin A, D, E, and K are absorbed together with fats and enter the lymphatic system, while water-soluble is vitamin B and C are absorbed directly into the blood. Lastly is mineral absorption. Minerals such as calcium and iron are also absorbed in the small intestine. Calcium absorbed is enhanced by vitamin D, while iron is mainly absorbed in the duodenum and transported according to the body needs.
Is choosing lactose-free alternatives such as lactose-free milk, yogurt, and plant-based milk like oat milk and almond milk. Lactose-free products have the sugar already removed. This means that no lactose reaches the small intestine, so there is no osmotic movement of water and no bacterial fermentation. As a result, symptoms such as diarrhea, bloating, and gas can be prevented. The next solution is limiting foods that are high in lactose such as milk, cream cheese, and ice cream. By reducing the intake of this food, the small intestine is not overwhelmed by the undigested lactose. Even with limited lactase activity, small amounts of lactose may still be partially digested, which helps reduce osmotic imbalance and fermentation in the intestine. Another way to manage lactose intolerance is by taking lactase enzyme supplements before consuming dairy. These supplements provide the missing lactase enzyme, which breaks lactose into glucose and galactose. This simple sugar can be absorbed by the villi of the small intestine, preventing lactose from entering the colon and causing osmotic diarrhea and bacterial fermentation. Fermented products such as yogurt and kefir can also be included in the diet.
During fermentation, bacteria break down some of the lactose before it reaches the small intestine. As a result, the remaining lactose and load is lower, which reduces both the osmotic effect and bacterial fermentation in the colon. Aged dairy products such as cheddar and parmesan contain less lactose compared to fresh cheese like mozzarella and ricotta. During the aging process, lactose is naturally broken down, leaving only a small amount for digestion. This amount is usually within a person's tolerant level, so symptoms such as bloating and diarrhea can be minimized. Dairy products should also be introduced gradually in small amounts. Small portions are allowed gut to cope with lactose slowly. In some cases, residual lactase activity or adaptation of gut bacteria helps the body tolerate low amounts of lactose without causing a severe symptoms. Combining dairy with other foods is another helpful strategy. When dairy is consumed together with other foods, digestion becomes slower. This gives more time for any available lactase enzyme to act on lactose and also reduce the rate at which lactose reaches the colon, helping to reduce discomfort. Is it also important to read food labels carefully? Many processed food contain hidden lactose. By avoiding these hidden sources, the total lactose intake stays within the tolerance level, which helps prevent sudden osmotic imbalance and bacterial fermentation that trigger symptoms. In conclusion, lactose intolerance occurs because the small intestine lacks enough lactase enzyme, so lactose cannot be fully digested into glucose and galactose. Undigested lactose draws water into the intestine and is fermented by bacteria, causing diarrhea, bloating, gas, and cramps. Using lactose-free products, lactase supplements, and fermented or aged dairy helps prevent these effects. This shows how enzyme deficiency directly affects digestion and nutrient absorption.